Interest is a payment made for borrowing money. If you borrow money from a bank, for example, to buy a car, then you have to repay the borrowed amount plus the interest. And the interest is the charge the bank is making you for loaning you the original amount of money. Alternatively, if you invest money in a savings account at the bank, then the bank pays you interest. There are two types of interest, simple and compound. I'm just going to look at simple interest here. Compound is dealt with in a separate video. Our formula for simple interest is I equals P R N, where I is the interest, P is the principal. Now the principal is the original sum, either borrowed or invested. R is the rate of interest, and N is the number of time periods that the money is invested for. Now the important thing is that N and R must be in the same units. So those units could be per annum, which is a year, or a month, or a day. Doesn't matter which they are, they have to be the same units, R and N, and that's where most people make their mistakes. Now just sometimes you will see the equation written as I equals PRT, and T for time periods is used instead of the number of time periods. So just be aware that the equation can be written like that. Let's do an example and see how this works in practice. Okay, what is the simple interest on $600 invested at 5% per annum, which is per year, for 3 years? The first thing I'm going to do always is write down the equation. I equals P times R times N. Now over here I'm going to write down what each of these are. So P is our principal. It's the amount that's being invested. It's $600. R is our rate, and it's 5% per annum. Now what I'm going to look at here is whether the number of time periods is in the same units, and it is. It's 3 years. So this is in per year and this is in years, so we don't need to change anything there. However, what I do need to do is write the rate as a decimal. Now 5%, remember percent means hundredths, so 5% is 5 hundredths, and if I write that as a decimal, that's 0.05. So our value for R is 0.05 and our value for N is 3. So I can now put these into our equation. So I equals 600 times 0.05 times 3. And if you put this into your calculator, you get an answer of $90. So our $600 invested for 3 years has given us an interest of $90. So we now have $690 in total. Let's do another slightly harder one. Okay, what is the simple interest on $100 invested at 9% per annum for 7 months? So the first thing I'm going to do again is I'm going to write out my equation. And over on the right, I'm going to write down the value for each of our prenumerals. So P is our principal, the amount invested, $100. R is our rate, which is 9% per annum. Now, if I convert this into a decimal, we've got, first of all, 9 hundredths per annum, which is 0.09. per annum. Now notice in our question our time period is 7 months. So this is where we have to change one of these into the same as the other one. So either I change the interest rate to a per month interest rate and I use it with 7 months, or I have to change 7 months into a fraction of a year and use it with the per annum interest rate. I'm actually going to do both so that you can see that it makes no difference which one you do. So if this is 0.09 per annum, so in a month it will be 0.09 over 12 per month. And for our n, it's either 7 months or 7 months is 7/12 of a year. So I either have to use the 7 months with the monthly interest rate there, or I have to use the annual interest rate with the n in terms of years. So I have to use those two. So let's pick the monthly one to start with. So I equals P, which is 100, times the rate, which is 0.09 over 12, times n, which is our 7 months. And if we work that out, that comes to $5.25. Now, alternatively, if I had used the annual interest rate with the fraction of the year, R is 0.09 times 7/12 of a year, and it works out to be exactly the same amount. So it doesn't matter which one you change, you just have to make sure that they are both in the same time periods. And that's calculating the simple interest on our $100 at 9% per annum for 7 months. I'm going to finish by doing just one more example. I'm going to make it as complicated as I can here. Find the simple interest on $942 invested for 201 days at 10.25% per annum. So you can see that we have two different time periods. This is per year and this is in days. And again, we're going to have to convert so that the two of them are in the same time period. I'm going to start by writing out my formula again. I recommend you always do this. And P is $942. R is 10.25% per annum. Now, if we rewrite this, this is 10.25. Percent is hundredths per annum. And if I write that as a decimal, that's 0.1025 per annum. Now, if I want to convert the interest rate into a daily interest rate, because there are 365 days in the year, I have to divide this by 365. And that is per day. Finally, let's look at n, which is 201 days. Now, I could just leave this because I've worked this out as a per day rate, or I could convert this into a fraction of a year. So it would be 201 out of 365 days of a year. So let's put some numbers into our equation over here. We've got 942 times, let's do our daily rate, which is 0.1025 over 365 times 201. And that works out to be $53.17. And if we were to do it the other way, we expect to get exactly the same answer. We've got our 942 times our annual interest rate, 0.1025, times the fraction of a year that we have. Our time period is 201 over 365. So as you can see, the equations are actually identical. It's just the 365 is in a different spot, but it's dividing the whole equation each time. So of course our answer turns out to be exactly the same, whichever method we do it. And that's how you find simple interest.